Okay, boys and girls, this is for Friday. So Friday's lesson is the 17th. You're going to be doing quest activity 14 and 15. And at the end of this lesson, you will be able to improve your answer to the question, what makes it hard to survive in the ocean? Give examples of how animals survive in different conditions or different ocean habitats. In the last lesson, you learned that very different ocean temperatures mean that each marine animal can only live in some parts of the ocean. Today, you're going to read about depths and tides. Pick one of these two terms and explain what you already know about it. Focus question: what makes it hard to survive in the ocean? How are these challenges different in different ocean habitats? We're going to read pages 10 to 13 of Save the Ocean to investigate focus question number 1. So let's go back to our story. We're going to do pages 10 to 13. Depth. Another thing that makes ocean habitats different from each other is the depth of the water. The shallowest part of the ocean is the water that touches the land. The deepest parts of the ocean are about 36,000 feet deep, or almost 7 miles. Light. As the water gets deeper, there's less sunlight. Scientists have divided the ocean into zones by how much light gets into the water. Take a look at the kinds of marine life that can live in each zone. 0 feet is the sunlit zone. 650 feet is the twilight zone. 3,300 feet, midnight zone. Got these animals that live in the midnight zone. Abyssal zone. These are the animals. This is at 13,000 feet, and then at 32,800 feet is the trench zone, the ocean basin, and it tells you what animals live in each part. You can go back and read what it says about each part of each zone. Pressure. In deeper water, there is more and more water pushing down on ocean animals. The weight of that push is called pressure. If you live in the twilight zone, for example, which is right here, this is the twilight zone where you see that squid. If you lived in the twilight zone, for example, the pressure would feel like there were 2 cars parked on your big toe. I think we've talked about this. The deeper you go into the water, the more pressure there will be on your body. And it says, why just your big toe? In the twilight zone, the pressure is equal to 8,000 pounds per square inch. Your big toe is about a square inch in size. But if you were in the twilight zone, the water pressure would feel like the weight of 2 cars, 8,000 pounds on every inch of your body. Tides. Another important difference between oceans and habitats is the effect of tides. There are 2 categories of tides, high tide and low tide. At high tide, ocean water gets deeper. The water moves up onto the land. At low tide, the ocean water gets shallower. The water pulls back and covers less land. There are 2 low tides and 2 high tides every day. The tides affect the entire ocean, but they have the most effect along the shoreline. High tide. Tides change the living conditions of some marine life 4 times a day. At high tide, the ocean water comes up onto the shore. This puts animals like clams on the water. Millions of phytoplankton wash in with the high tide. Clams have to open their shells to get as much food as they need. High tide doesn't help everything that lives on the shore. Green seaweeds need sunlight for energy. During the high tide, they are underwater. They can't get much sunlight. Before the high tide comes, they have to store enough energy to last until the next low tide. Low tide. At low tide, the water goes back out to sea. Puddles of water called tide pools are left behind on the beach. Marine animals that live in tide pools have to have ways to stay alive when most of the water has gone away. Some, like clams, have shells that they can close to keep themselves from drying out in the hot sun. Others, like crabs, bury themselves in the sand or under seaweed to stay wet. When the high tide comes again, the animals living in tide pools have to stop themselves from being swept back out to sea. Sea stars hold onto rocks with 2 feet that act like suction cups. Barnacles make a kind of glue that helps them stick to rocks. Animals that live in tide pools must have unique ways to survive in conditions that drastically change 4 times every day. Boys and girls, make sure you notice the pictures that go along with the reading. So I'm just reading these pages right here, but you can always go back and read the extra parts, like the 8th grade science challenge. That's something that you might want to be able to try at home. What causes tides? Okay, so now, boys and girls, you're going to go back to your assignment. Excuse me. Okay, so I read that part. You're going to answer the questions. Is there questions? There are. That's just 14. Let's see if there's anything else. That might be it for that lesson. Let's see, 15. Click on 15. All right, now 15, when you click on 15, the questions you have to answer are your comprehension, your key science concepts of vocabulary, and thinking like a scientist. You're going to use these questions to answer. You're going to answer these questions using the book that we just read, Save the Ocean. I just read those pages 10 through 14. Actually, I read more than what I was supposed to. So after you get finished reading the story, reading the text, the informational text about Save the Ocean, you're going to go back and answer these questions.